Hey, it's Rick, and boy do we have a straight-up dumpster fire to talk about today. So picture this, you just got your tonsils yanked out. You're groggy, your throat feels like sandpaper, and the first thing you see when you crawl back to your desk is not one, not two, but three separate meltdowns waiting for you. Yeah, whoever invented prescription painkillers deserves a statue, because honestly, I miss being unconscious on that operating table. At least back there, I didn't have to watch Dwayne Johnson in a wig that looks like it was fished out of a shower drain. Let's give it up, folks. Round of applause for the House of Mouse. They just pulled off another spectacular faceplant. 35% opening week rating, 32% on day one. That's not a movie, that's a crime scene. And they're racing neck and neck with the reigning champ of how did this cost so much money, last year's Snow White disaster. Here's the kicker. Going under the knife for real surgery was less stressful than knowing this remake dropped exactly the week I came back to work. $250 million. Let that number marinate for a second, because whatever I say next isn't gonna matter as much as that price tag. This is, frame for frame, word for word, a shot-by-shot clone of the original, except somehow worse in every single way. For comparison, Dune Part Two, a genuinely massive sci-fi epic with sandworms the size of skyscrapers, cost $175 million. This one's about people paddling a canoe. Do the math. There is no explanation for this budget other than one thing. Money laundering. That's it. That's the review. You know those videos where people run their childhood favorite game through some next-gen remaster and it comes out looking soulless, over-rendered, like a robot tried to guess what nostalgia feels like? Now imagine the live-action film version of that, except somebody also smeared Vaseline on the lens for good measure. And look, I get it. Usually childhood game means something from the 90s or early 2000s. This movie's barely 10 years old. It just started third grade, and Disney is already digging up its grave. Being able to watch a Disney remake trailer and instantly know exactly what I'll be ranting about 6 months later, that's a blessing and a curse. Makes my job easy, makes my soul a little more dead every time.
So here's the actual question nobody at Disney wants asked out loud. Is blame the fans a one-time excuse, or is it about to become the new studio playbook? Alright, when you've got nothing nice to say, you cling to whatever tiny scrap of hope you can find. And there is a tiny scrap here. Domestic projections are landing around 40 to 45 million for opening week. That basically mirrors what Snow White pulled, which, if you remember, collected around 17 million in its first 2 days. Not exactly a triumph, but hey, a crash landing is still a landing. And honestly, that gives me a little hope. Hope that people are finally waking up, because the wallet is the only language these studio execs actually speak. Maybe, just maybe, if global numbers dip under 100 million, somebody in a boardroom finally looks around and says, hey, maybe we shouldn't blow 250 mil on a cartoon redo where a fifth of the budget goes straight into Dwayne Johnson's paycheck. Who am I kidding? I'm lying to myself. Why would they stop? They've got Moana 2 sitting pretty at $1 billion, proving the franchise still prints cash. Lilo and Stitch cleared $1 billion too, and at least that one bothered to change the script a little. Didn't need to, but at least there was something to talk about. And hey, laundering cash through Hollywood isn't exactly a new concept. Even Nolan's doing it, judging by the wardrobe budget on that Odyssey movie. But we'll get to that one next week. At least that film has actual conversation topics attached to it. This one, nothing. It's not just a soulless remake, it's a soulless frame-locked photocopy. Every scene mechanically mirrors the original, but looks worse, performs worse, and gives you zero reason to pick it over the version that's been sitting on your streaming app for a decade. For free, by the way, if you're already paying for the subscription. The Critic score sits at 36%. The original, 95%. This isn't a remake, it's a hostage situation. $250 million, and they couldn't even be bothered to make the wind blow the character's hair while they're literally paddling a boat across open water. Go watch the trailer. These people are moving at full speed across the ocean and their hair just sits there, dead, motionless, like the movie itself. That's the real horror story here. Not the plot, the budget. Now, let's talk about the elephant Sorry, the demigod in the room, Dwayne Johnson. The guy carried this character's voice in the animated original, and people act like that automatically makes him perfect for live action. It doesn't. Voice acting and physical performance are two completely different sports, and animation gave Maui something live action simply can't fake. Exaggerated expression, insane physicality, hair that moves like it's got its own personality. Meanwhile, live-action Dwayne has exactly two facial expressions in this entire runtime: neutral Dwayne and slightly smiling Dwayne. That's the whole range. And look, I love the guy in the right role. Give him something to punch. He's genuinely great at punching things. But nobody needs him doing dramatic, emotional acting when his face barely moves. And this isn't a new lesson either. We already learned this in the 2000s when full-on motion capture experiments went sideways. Animation and live action don't just blend seamlessly because a studio wants them to, but apparently that memo never made it to the boardroom. The rest of the cast isn't faring much better. The CGI supporting characters look less like colorful cartoon sidekicks and more like something out of a bad fever dream. Kids are going to remember this movie for nightmares, not songs. Here's the genuinely weird part though. The live-action How to Train Your Dragon remake pulled the exact same stunt. A shot-for-shot redo, arguably worse than the original in every way, and critics and audiences ate it up. Way better reviews, way bigger box office. And I honestly don't have a clean answer for why that formula worked there and completely bombed here. Maybe live action just fits a character-driven dragon story better than an animation-heavy musical. Maybe nostalgia hits different when the original came out when you were 15 instead of 10. I genuinely don't know. All I know is the box office numbers don't lie, and right now, this thing is tracking dangerously close to Snow White territory. And don't even get me started on the flood of suspiciously identical 5-star reviews online. One-liners like, "Great movie, loved it, amazing singing," written with all the personality of a chatbot filling out a form. Everyone keeps screaming, "Stop making remakes, give us originals," but look at what's actually in the pipeline. Beloved original IP getting gutted, creators pushed out, projects rebuilt by AI just so the footage chops up nicely for TikTok. So maybe the originals aren't the answer either. Maybe what we actually need is a full creative reset, which, let's be honest, a trillion-dollar corporation is never gonna do voluntarily. But hey, if they did stop, I'd be out of job, and that's way less fun. Gotta feed the family, which is just me, but still. Thanks for hanging out, ranting with me one more time. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, tell me I'm wrong in the comments. I read every single one. This has been Rick. I'm free from Moana, now bracing for Nolan's Odyssey. And folks, that one's going to be an actual epic. No doubt about it.